Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's how we start the videos around here. We got this guy pretty much ready to go. We'll come back to that real quick. We'll walk over here. I got turbo stuffed in here, sized up. My buddy Joey Fowler. This is his imported manifold. We just brought it over to get some sizing. He's going to, for this weight and size turbo, we want to use his handmade stainless Schedule 40 pipe, just so this thing doesn't crack. With a smaller turbo, it would be no problem, but we just wanted to eyeball this up. We're going to do something neat. He's going to attempt to build a divided log. So more on that when it gets built. It'll be easier to show. I believe Joey is also going to film, and he's going to time lapse it and show what he's doing. So this is my 5-inch down pipe adapter. We're going to neck to 4, and then we're going to go into the Y pipe and the loud valve, and then down underneath we're going to reduce from 4 to 3 and put the stock tailpipe system back on. I like that. It's already done. I don't need to do anything else with that. And then the loud valve, I believe we're torn between trying to fit it in the first half here, which it could, it's not that bad, or putting it underneath. So over the next, once we get the manifold and stuff done, we're going to move on to that. And then the Duramax intercooler makes this so easy. This is just laying here for now. This is a 3-inch outlet, and that's a 3-inch Duramax intercooler inlet. And then same over there, it comes up and in. And then I'm going to be doing an integrated install on this. I think I said that already. And I don't know, I have an idea of how it's going to go, and it should be very simple. So I'm going to cut most of this harness out, since this is going to the engine, and I will have a complete Holley engine harness. But I would like my speedometer and my tach to work, and depending on what I want to do, coolant and oil pressure. So you can split the oil pressure because it's a 5-volt sensor, even though that's a 0 to 100. So the oil pressure will kind of work. It'll show something. The stock is like a 0 to 130, so the scale will be off slightly. The only other things is this will have complete working AC, and I'm going to use the car ECU to control the alt. So the plug and everything's already here, and then the stock computer is going to control the AC controls, which come out down here and underneath the front of the motor and go over to all the AC clutch and sensors and everything else. And I believe the starter wire is integrated into that. And then there's only one other sensor on the canister, the dryer. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not an AC technician, but there's that guy. So that's got to get wired into the stock computer to tell it that the pressures are okay. So that's easy. That's 2 wires. And it goes into this loom, I believe. But most of this stuff can get removed. So the only things I will need is possibly to split my vehicle speed. And what I also want to do for the stock computer is I want to tap the cam and crank, or just maybe the crank. I think I could just do the crank, and then it would show the tach and RPM and everything would work. So there's varying amounts on like what you can connect and split. And obviously I'm going to use a stock fuel pump wiring for pump number 1. I'm going to run stuff for pump number 2 and trigger it myself. The vehicle speed input, all that stuff should be very easy. The neat thing is I can just drop the Holley on, get it running and working, and then add that stuff later. And what's neat is most of this will come out. And I believe this has no wiring whatsoever with the OBD2 port. That's like this stuff going into the car that gets hashed out into the computer through all this other stuff. So all that should work. You should be able to plug this truck in. It should show the right ECU and information and everything else. So it'll be like a side-by-side install. 80% of the Holley is doing 80% of it, and then the other stuff, has picked up the slack. So, sorry to spin around. This has a feed and return line, as you can see. So, what I wanted to do was to adapt my rails. I got these Holley rails with the Holley intake, the Gentle Folk at Holley scent, of course. So I had this idea. I'm like, well, I got to get a regulator, and I really like that $30 PQY, and it comes with, you can get it in 8 and 8 and 6 return, which is perfect for me. So I got a kit from Faster Performance. It was cheaper to buy his fuel rail kit for like an F-body, and I can link this if you guys are interested, but I bought his rails for new body style intakes and whatnot before. I really like his product. So it was expensive to buy all of this stuff separately from him, and other manufacturers on eBay in China than it was to just buy the fuel rail kit, and it came with all this stuff. So what I wanted to do was, then I found this guy. I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if you could just get the push fitting on push to orb? So technically, this should be the size of the feed. Yes, it is. So from here, this is a 8 orb. So that's what my rails are, an 8 orb. And then also my regulator is an 8 orb. So what I'd like to do is blow through the regulator and then cap the fronts of these to maintain room for like the alternator and whatnot, because the alternator gets pretty close here. So I'm going to cap the fronts, and then the faster performance comes with this Y fitting. So this will go to the back rail, this will go there, and then this will go from the other side of the regulator and feed the rail, both back pieces, after blowing through the regulator. So that's the plan. I'm going to see how cleanly that comes out. And then I got these guys. I used them before. Actually, they're on the G. They come in a 2 set for like $8 off Amazon. And I got a GM flex fuel sensor for 50 bucks. So these are the connectors that push onto this, and then you can use 3/8 hose. So I'm going to use that for the return. I have the same thing jammed in here on my G, the plastic fittings. Well, I got the one here, and then the other one goes to the rail with the push lock. So that's the LOJ feed line, you can tell, with the 45 going into my flex, and then I have the plastic guy, and then it wraps around, and plastic guy there. So what I should be able to do with that is put it in line on that 3/8 return, and then, you know, mount the regulator somewhere, hopefully. So that should be pretty easy. I think I'm going to blow through the regulator and put the lines all in the back of the intake, like I said. Then I should be set. I'm ready to go. We hogged out the top of this guy, so now the throttle blade opens fully, closes fully. Everything's good there. It catches a little bit. I guess we're going to need to... It seems like it's catching. Maybe it's just the motor. Nah, it's rubbing the intake a little bit on this side, I think. So, that's good. And then I got my... I bought a vacuum block off eBay that I'm going to run to this and probably shove under the intake. So that'll go to like wastegates, blow-off valve. This truck has Hydro Boost brakes, so it doesn't need vacuum for the brakes. The truck, he put an adapter and a 2.5 bar LSA style map on the truck. So that was a freebie, because the Holley intake, it bolts right to it. It has a countersunk like chamfered hole here in the bolt. So we'll put the 2.5 on there. I just purchased the 4 bar, anticipating running out of that 26 pounder. So that's how everything is going to go, or at least how I plan it. And then we'll pass through this guy and get the fuel going. I might set it on the gauge and then probably screw a pressure transducer for the Holley into here from like Low Dollar Motorsports. Pretty sure I'm going to do that. But other than that, that's the game plan. That's pretty much where we are. I can show some other videos of us tearing into the truck. I just took pictures, actually. But, I mean, pretty simple. We just removed the kit and put the Faller manifold on to make sure it would be in the appropriate area. There's the old turbo, manifold, downpipe, all sorts of stuff. Clutch fan. I'm going to put electric fans in. I want to run the fans off the stock ECU. It has 2 fan outputs, so then I don't have to waste any of my Holley ones. So I'm going to do stuff back and forth like that, use both computers. It's a 2500, so it really doesn't have emissions. It's exempt. Other than that, like, I'm getting pretty lucky with this stuff, so that's why I decided another white truck. And I dug up my periwinkle piping I showed everybody. I found some periwinkle from my private stock. So white truck, big turbo, periwinkle pipe. And that's it for now. I'll toss the photos of tearing it down and whatnot in and get this fuel line stuff together. And I'll show the fuel line stuff when I'm all done, so you can have a better grasp of it. But pretty simple, right? And then we're going to fire it on Snake Eater 1000s, and we're going to push them as far as they will go. And that's what we want to learn. How far will the 1000s go? And I'm anticipating possibly running out of them, and I'm going to drop in 1500s at that point. Ta-da! So here is, like I said, everything bolted up. I got the plugs in the front, so there's nothing coming out of the front. And then I got so this guy will go hereabouts or something in the engine bay. We'll figure it out. But what's nice is, we have this lead to work with. I can also flip it and use the other side. So that will be the feed line, and it will pass through the regulator and pressurize all of this, both rails, through the T fitting. And then when it's fully pressurized, it will spit out the return. So will return in through the flex sensor and everything else. The other idea I had, if this is too much slack, I can put the T fitting over here and then do like the 90, because the stock fuel line clips to like here, so it'll go in this area. I figured this, doing something like this would be really easy, because this is where the feed and the return are, but we'll see how it works out practically once it's in the engine bay, because you could easily swap, get the longer hose, just use the 90 on this side and get this long hose so that the regulator is over here without all of this slack. So that's the other idea, but that's it.